Good evening. It is now evening, as you can see. I have to be down here because I need to focus the camera on the action. There's a camera dead ahead there and there's a camera up there. I hope that one's in focus. It's night. Catherine and I have been shopping today, Christmas shopping, and we had to take a couple of hours out before the shops closed, so we did that. Now, essential items for any type of guitar maintenance: make sure you've got all the tools you need, soldering iron, which I only need for one tiny job, the correct size Allen key, which I've just spent the last hour looking for, which has been extremely frustrating. But yeah, we're going to whip this old bridge out, we're going to put the new one in, and then we're going to go back in the room and A/B test them. Not quite sure how I'm going to edit that together, but I'll work that out. And of course, a libation. It's been quite a stressful day. Cheers. Right, breaks my heart to lose these lovely new strings, but that has to happen. So, you know what I'm saying, you need all your tools handy, string winder. Goodbye, lovely new strings. So we'll take these off. I also need to remember that my focus plane for the camera is where the guitar is currently, right about here in the middle of the table. Man, it breaks my heart to lose these strings. I will speed this up. I'll fast forward a lot of this. Okay, so first job, I'll just undo this. Now, what you should do when you're doing any kind of guitar maintenance is to put something really soft down so the guitar doesn't get damaged when you're turning it upside down, flipping it over and all of that. Yeah, that's what you should do. I'm kind of a little bit over that with this particular guitar. Right, as you'll see on the back here, you probably won't see because that camera can't quite see it, but here is the earth wire that comes out the pickup cavity to earth the trem spring claw, vibrato spring claw should I say. So that needs to come off there. Hopefully my soldering iron is hot. We'll soon see. Oh no, soldering left-handed, this could be a disaster. I ended up just pulling that off there because anyway, I'm going to replace that wire because I do think it's got a it wasn't making proper connection because it wasn't buzzing like anything, this guitar. So there's a number of ways you can do this. I don't know the proper way. I just pull the springs out like this. And we want... Those are going to get replaced with the Callaham ones because apparently springs make a difference to tone. True story. This claw is going to get replaced as well, so I'll just pull that out now with my handy screwdriver, which is here. For anyone tempted to be saying, oh my god, you know, you should be protecting the back of the guitar and you should have the guitar on something soft on the table. Yes, you should. If you care about your guitar and you know it's precious to you and you don't want to get it scratched and all of that, do all of that. But I'm really not bothered by any of that stuff. The camera's probably shaking because it's on the same table. Now, I wonder if these might be neck screws, you know, because they've got wax on them. Interesting. So I'll file that with the old bit of trim. Right. I hope this camera can see this. The way you set this stuff up, Catherine's just doing the post today to send all the things out. On a 6-pivot bridge like this, on a 6-screw Strat bridge, what you do is you lay it flat and you put the outer two down just so they touch the top of the bridge plate, and you then put the middle four the same, but then you undo them just a tiny bit. So there's probably, I don't know, around about 1 millimeter or so there And what that does is it means it pivots on the outer two. The other four give it strength that way, but what they don't do is they don't clamp it tight to the body, so that when you wang it, it sticks and goes out of tune. So that's a killer tip for anyone struggling to keep their Fender 6-screw vintage style bridge in tune. Screw the out ones down just so, not tight, so it sits flat against the body, not so it pulls it down. And then the middle four the same, but then just unscrew them a tiny bit. I've done that for years. I can't remember who told me that. Somebody, I mean, it's well known among Strat people. Yeah, right. Okay, so out come these. What I usually do as well when I'm taking anything apart is have a little pot handy to put things in, so that all the essential business you don't lose. Out that comes that. Obviously these screws are pretty deep because they go in all the way into the body, and they are what holds the vibrato in place. And as I've opined before, God, I'm really sorry I keep looking at the monitor. It's because I need to make sure my head's in. As I have opined before, to me, having the 6 screws and the bridge on the body is, I'm going to be careful what I say here, I think it's better. It's a more traditional Strat sound to me. 4. Cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the new bridge and I'm just going to rough it out in terms of where everything's set. This is a quick way. So here's the new bridge. Take the arm out. I've got 2 arms as it goes. I've got this one, which is the regular length. They also do a long length, and they also do a short length. So just a matter of entire personal preference. So I'll try both of those out and come up with a decision, but I'm pretty sure I like the regular length. Right, so as I said, let's rough it out. Let's have a look. Bless them. It comes pretty much bang on. Honestly, just citing that is pretty much bang on. I can barely believe that. I can barely believe that. Cruise Tools little guitar kit that I've had for years and years and years. It's really good. So let's see. To the top of the saddle, let's go on the G string there. Make that D string. 1 centimetre. This one's a little lower, so I might just have to put it up a tiny bit when it goes on. It's almost bang on. Let's see, back from the screws. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of intonation adjustment requirement, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm just happy to put that on there now. Let's have a quick compare of these then. I'm not sure. I'm just going to do this, just in case what I think is in focus isn't in focus. Maybe I'll do some... No, I can't do a close-up of that because it's going to be in the guitar. What I can tell you, just citing them, is this one has a very obvious plate on it, like a stainless steel or something. And it just feels a bit plasticky, actually, compared to this one, which feels like machined steel. Feels a lot better actually. This one has some more care in and around the machining of the screw holes. And I would say that that edge along there, this edge along there, I'm just gonna check that camera a second. I think that's okay. This edge along here is really, really, really precise. It's a beautiful thing actually. For anyone in engineering, thank you for your hard work. It's beautiful. Whereas this is kind of, you know, sort of, there's a line of sorts. And what that means is, I've heard Callaham say this before, is that if this edge is precise, it means that the bridge can pivot on the body of the guitar more precisely. And it makes absolute sense when you look at it. Weight-wise, using the very accurate scales of my hands, there's not much in it actually. I expected the Callaham one to be much heavier, but it doesn't seem to be. Okay, goodbye for the time being, because if I don't like this, it's going to go back in, obviously. Right, let's see if the screw holes line up. They do, and I knew they would. Really important consideration. If you have a Japanese Fender, certain Squires, these screw spacings will be different compared to this type of American vintage spacing. So if you're thinking about changing your bridge, just make sure you get the spacing correct. Right, a little packet of screws somewhere. Here's the new hardware from Callaham. Again, I'm just going to check this camera. Cool. Just going to move the action to the middle. Libate further. Right, in here, my new bits of hardware. Lovely, lovely, lovely. New claw, new springs, new screws. Happy days. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in. And then I'll fast forward this bit. Okay, Doyle Bramall is actually keeping me company tonight, along with Catherine, on the stereo there. Cool. As I alluded earlier, what you want is these two outer screws just down far enough so that the thing moves freely and doesn't feel impeded. Because if it feels impeded like this, once you get some tension on it and you've got strings and you're trying to waggle it, it will be impeded further, and therefore that's when you get friction problems and tuning stability. Okay, so that's the front. Happy days. There will be some intonation readjustment required, I believe. Here's the new claw, spring claw, and that goes I don't have any wire thingies to hand or a scalpel, so just a very sharp knife will do. Everyone's screaming at the screen at this moment. Stop doing that. I should say, actually, health and safety warning. You know, if you're doing anything, using heat, using sharp objects, using anything, just try and be relatively sensible. Right, more solder required. Happy days. See if the fire alarm goes off. You should be wearing a mask. You should not be inhaling these toxic fumes, etc., etc., etc. Thank you, health and safety police. You should do all those things. Right. No doubt lots of people will be giving me very handy soldering tips at this point, because it can be really tough to get this bit of solder to just stick on that little plate there. Okay, it's certainly not the best joint you'll ever see in the world ever, but it'll do. Right, springs. Ooh, still a bit warm. There we go. Okay, that all looks good. How many springs? So I usually have 4 or 5, depending on the guitar, depending on how it feels. We'll get onto that in a minute. So we'll do that. I'll take that one out and we'll just see. Just a little bit of tension on there. Cool. Okay, let's put some strings on and see where we were. This is just a reverse of the process of what we were doing earlier, so I'm not going to film all that again. Right, some interesting things. When the old bridge came out, I was talking about a little compression screw that sits inside the trem block. It is that. I sincerely hope it's in focus. When it came out, I got little metal dust all over my hands where the arm had been tensioned and tightened and blah 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 over the various years, and yeah, metal dust, because I always leave the arm in when I put the guitar in the gig bag. It sort of goes down like that. Anyway, blah blah blah. So there's no hole at the bottom there. Some Strat trem blocks have a hole at the bottom, so that screw would be no good. So the arm's back in, the screw's in there. It won't get lost. Happy days. That may go back on the guitar if I don't like this. I've strung it up. Happily, Callaham give you the requisite Allen key to adjust the action when that time comes, and of course the intonation. The most accurate tuner I have is on my phone. Now, when you're setting, here's how I will set this guitar up, and I won't document all of it because it's a lot of recording time and it's probably boring for everybody out there, and I am not an expert. Okay, so Doyle Bramwell's keeping me company again. His other album, action and intonation for me is. What do I do first? I'd probably do the action first, then think about the intonation. Whatever, rough it out. Check one, do the other. Check the other, do the other. Check one, check the other, check the other. Keep checking backwards and forwards until it's right. And you should. Intonation's fine. You can do that laid flat if you want, but action you should do in the. Well, actually, you should do it all in the playing position, because the guitar is poised differently when it's in the playing position than when it's on the deck as it is now. You know, God, I should have a neck support. There's all sorts of things I should be doing. So for all of you screaming at the screen, my God, please take better care of your guitars. Honestly, it's 2 bits of wood bolted together. Right, so as I said, the most accurate tuner I have is actually on my phone, and it's the Peterson Strobo Soft app. Don't know if you've got it. Now, what I hope is if I lay it on the guitar like that, it'll pick it up nicely. And I'll just explain this. Intonation, fret, flat, forward. If the fretted note is flat of the 12th fret harmonic, move the saddle forward. Okay, so here we go. That's reading within 1 cent on. The fretted note is sharp, so what do we do? Fret flat forward, fret sharp, back. It's near enough for me. I'll just do that for each string, then I'll set the action, and then we're in the game. It's near enough. Some people are really, really, really funny about intonation, but all I'm going to say to you is that every note you play, here you go. Almost a semitone in that. I've never been that worried about it, and I'll adjust the guitar over. If it's not right, I'll adjust it, and then if it's not quite right, I'll adjust it again. But I don't obsess over it to get it absolutely bang on, just to get the thing playing. Action, as I said, probably best to do this in the playing position. It's not far off, I'd say. That's astonishing. That's absolutely astonishing. Man, Johnny has done such a fantastic job on this fret job. I mean, I've just put the new bridge on. I haven't changed anything, and it's playing. It might be cambered slightly flatter than 7 1/4. It's pretty in tune. Here you go. Certainly close enough for me to make an assessment of whether I like the bridge or not. Sorry, I keep looking at that screen. I need to look at this. So do I want to make any changes to the action? Might just put the outer strings down 1/4 of a turn and the middle ones up 1/4 of a turn just to get that camber on the board right. Okay, detail obsessives will be going absolutely crazy at this point, saying, please, please, please do it properly. That is properly enough for me, and it will enable me to play the guitar and hear what it sounds like. The last thing is to just test the tension on the arm. Now, the way I like it is that when I bend up my biggest bend, the bar, the bridge, just lifts, just. So what that means is it's always sat on the guitar, and I can do all my normal bends, and the bridge won't lift. But when I do a huge bend, it will. And the reason for that is so that it's not too hard to push down. So at the moment, sorry, I'm going to have to get out the focus plane. Okay, so a little bit can come out of there, I think. People say 5 strings sounds better. I kind of agree. But I want to use the arm as well. Don't be long. Still a bit stiff, actually. Okay, that's at a point that I really rather like. Now, I've never put new springs in before, so maybe they'll bend, maybe they'll give a bit, I don't know. Just going to play it and see how I get on, but it seems good. It's always been a very resonant guitar, and I can already feel that it's resonating in a way that I like. I don't know whether that's better or worse or whatever, and I think that'll take a few weeks for that to really sink in. So there we go. I've replaced the bridge. I've explained a little bit about setting action and intonation by the me way, and for goodness sake, there's a load of people who are going to moan about it because you like to do it more accurately. Let's go and plug it in and play all those things that I was playing earlier on. See if we can hear any difference. Interesting. I've just put the new strings on, and I'm just going to do this. I'm going to play through some open chords, and I'll try and remember to play the same chords for both things. So. Not sure how interesting that'll be. This mic above my head here will pick that up. Right, okay, so 2 Rock Classic Reverb Signature. I've got a different set of pedals from video 1, but here we are. I've gone into the 100 watt mode, and I decided that the sounds in the last video were a little bit gainy, so I'm going to make it a bit cleaner, and this is what this sounds like. for whatever that's worth. So the first sound is going to be those chords that I like, the G and the F chord in the position 2. So I should write this down really. Okay, whatever that's worth. For sound 2, I'm going to turn the D&M drive on. I'm going to go onto the neck pickup, my favourite place to be most of the time when I'm not on the bridge pickup. Don't normally use the D&M drive in this setting, but it seems to be working quite nicely. And this is for what I would think of that sort of barking, where the Strat starts to bark a bit and pushes the amp. So here's the amp on its own. And then with the D&M drive. Right. Let's just go for let's go for 2 more sounds. Let's have some delay. I've got tonal recall on here, which sounds really nice from Chase Bliss. Okay, so for this, I'm also going to add some harmonic tremolo on, and I'm going to play the kind of F to G to A minor thing that I like to play, which is this. Okay, and of course the thing we haven't played yet is the action of the bridge. So far I've been listening to the tonal difference, or hopefully we're going to hear the tonal difference. Now I want to talk about how it's set up. So I'm just going to play something using the wang bar, and the thing that just comes to mind is Lenny. Let's see if I can remember how to play this. Now, it is what is it today? It's January. It must be about the 13th or the 14th or something. It is the 13th of January. I did all that stuff that you just seen, the original bit, the bit where we changed the bridge, the bit where I went in there and played. Did all that on the 23rd of December, so a couple of weeks have passed, 3 weeks have passed. And I wanted that time to pass because Dan and I had a gig. I wanted to play it in a few shows. I wanted to just live with the guitar with the Callaham bridge in it, just to see beyond what you've just heard, what difference it makes. And there will be people watching right now going, oh my goodness me, why did you even bother? The differences are so subtle, so nuanced. In fact, there'll be loads of people who can't even hear any difference whatsoever. Got Joey Landris keeping me company today. Hello, Joey, if you ever watch this. Did I notice a difference? Yes, I did, and I'll talk about that in a second. What I think's remarkable is how well the bridge performed. You know, take the old one out, put the new one in, go straight in there, and within an hour or so be playing and it be in tune and it working. I thought that was amazing. I thought it would take more time to settle than that. The springs have definitely they've got more give in them now, I think. So the trem's got a slightly lighter action than it had right at the beginning. Stands to reason, I suppose. What else before we get into the guitar? Strings. I didn't talk about strings. Dan and I have started using Kurt Mangan strings just recently. And we like them very much. We're going to do some custom sets of Kurt Mangan strings. And my gauges are going to be 10.5, 14, 17, 28, 40 and 50, which is a set that I find works really well on the Strat. So we're going to do some of those. I really, really, really like these strings. And I've done a separate video on that, which will come out at some point. Okay, so those were the strings. All right, there were a bunch of sounds. The acoustic sound of the guitar. Could you hear any difference? I don't know. I was sat slightly more like that with the Callaham bridge and slightly more like that with the Fender bridge. Negligible, I would say. My first impression that it was a little bit louder, maybe a tiny bit louder, the guitar as a whole. I don't know, it's marginal, isn't it? It's marginal. Sound 1, the kind of very clean, just straight into the amp, G to F thing. In fact, across all of the sounds, and including the D&M drive as well, the kind of what I described as that kind of barking tone, and then with the trem and the delay on, and also I'm really sorry about the playing in Lenny, but hey, it's near enough and you get the idea. I think the Callaham bridge overall definitely takes out some of that lower mid, you might call it mud, that Blue has, and I don't know whether it adds or whether just the subtractive nature of the lower mid just makes the Callaham bridge sound ever so slightly more prominent in the upper mid range. In a similar way, it's the kind of the thing that I call the clon frequency, the one that makes it cut and present and bright and really cut through. And I think the Callaham bridge adds a marginal, and I will underline marginal, amount of that. And I think I could hear that across all of the sounds listening back to it in the, I've just edited the video this morning, which is why I'm doing this follow-up right now. And I think I can hear that just about, but bloomin' heck, it's marginal, and it really will vary from guitar to guitar. I should also say that Blue has titanium saddles on that Fender bridge, so there's another random thrown in there. And do they matter? Because jumping down this rabbit hole may well seem entirely pointless to a lot of people, a complete waste of time and money. I would counter that slightly by saying if you've got an itch, you need to scratch it. And sometimes going down the rabbit hole can be useful and valuable and worthwhile doing, because if you come out the other side of it having answered some questions, or having at least sort of calmed yourself about some concerns you might have had, that puts you in a better place to engage with the instrument. And let's look into that a minute. I've long been a believer that your sort of psychological connection with the instrument is every bit as important as the tonal interaction. So can you hear a difference? Yes or no? Does it matter? Yes or no, depending on whether you psychologically connect with that guitar. And that's always been really important for me. So the thing that started the sort of downturn with Blue was I just wasn't interacting with the guitar, I wasn't enjoying the guitar, and therefore the stuff that I wanted to play, the stuff that I wanted to come out through me, through the guitar, wasn't coming out because I felt like the guitar was a barrier. So even if that barrier is psychological, you need to find a way of removing it. And for me, going down the rabbit hole a little bit, which I don't do very often, to be honest, because I am fairly cynical about, endless tinkering. I put that opinion across quite a lot on the show, but sometimes if you need to do it, you need to do it. And in this case, I did it. And I do think the refret definitely was 90% of me reconnecting with that guitar. Partially in here, partially physically. The bridge for me is a closer ratio. So where I think the refret was 90% real, it was much nicer to play, and it definitely made the guitar sound better to me. The bridge is probably 50-50. It's 50% psychological, and maybe I can hear some tone difference too. But nevertheless, it's important to get over that psychological hurdle. Won't go on too much about that, but I think it's really, really, really important as a guitar player or as a musician or as any kind of artist to connect with the thing that helps you do this. So yeah, okay, the Callaham stays. There's no... I think it's a marginal improvement, and I am probably going to try some Fender steel saddles and also my titanium ones on there, because I have heard people say that the Callaham ones do sound very bright and present, but I just, it's not a problem. The guitar sounds great. It worked great at the gig that Dan and I did last Thursday. The Blue just had so much presence and clarity and all the things that I wanted it to have that I felt it was losing before. So I think with all of that in mind, yeah, it stays. The Callaham bridge stays. 15% because I do think it is a little clearer sounding, and 85% because it works beautifully. My goodness me, the vibrato action and the tuning stability straight out of the, straight from nothing to on the guitar to in there wanging it was astounding. It was astonishing. So for that reason, it stays. And plus the virtual pop-in arm thing is just brilliant. There's no play in the arm, which you can get in a lot of Fender bridges. So for me, the practical element wins out there, definitely. Okay, part three. Part three will be pickups. Having gone down this rabbit hole, I can almost not bring myself to go down the next rabbit hole. However, there has been a development. A lot of people were surprised why I didn't choose some kind of super rare boutique replacement pickup to go in there. I've got the Fender Custom Shop Fat 60s. Well, as it happened, I had some irons in the fire, which I didn't know were going to come off or not, but they have come off. And winging their way to me are a set of Ron Ellis 64 Strat pickups, which, and here's the thing, right? You could get a Strat pickup from any boutique maker and it's going to be awesome. I'll mention Mark Foley. Amazing pickups that Matt Schofield uses. If Matt Schofield uses them, surely they're the best Strat pickups in the world. Tim at Bare Knuckle, amazing Strat pickups that loads of people use. Radio Shop that Chris Buck uses. There are many great pickup makers, and I'm certain that they're all of a fairly similar, comparable standard. And everyone says, oh, these are the best. The reason I've gone with Ron Ellis is because Doyle Bramall plays them, and I love Doyle Bramall almost as much as I love Joey Landreth. And this particular 64 set is a direct replica of what's in Doyle's main 64 Strat. So for that reason and no other, I'm super interested to get some of those pickups. So they're on the way, and I'm going to compare those with the custom shop Fat 60s and see what happens. I also had a really great conversation with Ron, actually, and we just immediately, you know, come on, here he is talking to me. You know, his customers include some people I don't even know if I can mention, but I've already mentioned Doyle, and you can literally stack them up after that. And then there's, you know, some of our friends like Kirk Fletcher and Josh Smith, and people who I'm close to, who I have a relationship with, who, and that all matters, and that all means something. So for me, I mean, you can see me smiling, you can see how enthusiastic I am about it. So hope, you know, anyway, we there's a rapport there. And again, going back to that whole psychological thing, it's really important. It's massively important to me. So yeah, so we'll do that in part 3. Whether I go as forensic as I've done on the bridge, don't know. But and then I'm going to stop scratching, because playing, practicing, getting out, gigging, playing with friends, doing all of that, I guarantee you'll enjoy yourself more. You'll be a better guitar player for it. But for me, the itch needed to be scratched. So there was some time down the drain. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I am saying that the realization of after doing it all is that the difference is marginal enough, in my case, to matter psychologically. But, you know, does it radically improve the guitar? I'm not sure. And I think, again, that comes down to your particular guitar. You know, would a Callaham bridge make a much bigger difference in a, let's say, like a 70 Strat, which has got one of those cast blocks and the cast saddles and the bad quality bridge plate? Yeah, it would make a much bigger difference than it makes over the modern American vintage bridge. It's all down to you to decide whether you think it's worth it or not. So there you go. Part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it's been a bit of a long one, but it's been blooming interesting for me. And onwards. Right, Sunday afternoon. I think I should go home.